Bonjour, hi! In episode 44, I was with Shannon Kuehn, a new cloud advocate at Microsoft, and we learned a lot about storage. And I was very curious to know more about her and know her journey. So let's see what she had to answer. So my first question, are you ready, Shannon?
I am ready.
Yeah? Are you sure?
I think so. I think so. I don't know. Now I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. There's one question I want to ask to all my guests, because for me, going into IT or programmation, we're just talking about that before the show. I was just chatting with Shannon before we start the recording. And my parkour was not, I think, a classic one. So I think a question I would like to ask to all my guests is, and I think the question will maybe evolve with time, but it's something like, how did you start your journey in IT?
Sure, I was also not very typical, right? So my degree was in communication studies and English. So I had been speaking in front of people since high school. So I did competitive debate, competitive speech. Didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew I needed a degree. Sometimes I feel like we are forcing kids to pick degrees a little too early in life. So I picked a degree that was very broad and generic. Well, it took me to Chicago. So I'm from Nebraska originally. And it took me to Chicago and landed me a couple of jobs out here that kind of prepped me for my first technical job, because I had done everything from loan servicing to database marketing to healthcare market research. I literally didn't know what I wanted to do career-wise. And so I came out to Chicago. I was an administrative assistant, but also kind of backup help desk. I got hired on by a real estate investment firm out here in Chicago, and they were small. They didn't really have an IT person. So I had come in and, I guess I'd gotten better with technology over the course of time by way of being a DJ. So way back when, I'm a DJ. So yeah, like I actually have records and I know how to spin records. And so my genre I would always spin was a lot of like house. So all different flavors of house, right? So from Chicago house to tech house to electro house, I've got tons of music. And, I challenged myself in college to figure out how to connect everything up to my mixer, because I got tired of my developer friends kind of always pulling my leg, right? They loved that I would call them, how do I make this work? So fast forward, so I'd figured that out, and I really kind of enjoyed that I guess, challenge of sorts. And then fast forward to kind of that job in Chicago, I was fixing things faster than our outsourced IT department was able to do, right? So they had kind of transitioned that role and responsibility over to me, but all I had really done up until that point was a lot of help desk. So over the course of my time there, and I was there about 8.5 years, they invested in my education. So I learned a lot about VMware, I learned a lot about Windows Server, Windows Desktop, Active Directory, Exchange, right? Even SharePoint. I mean, I don't admit that very publicly, but I guess I just told your Twitch stream. So I did a little dabbling in SharePoint, but just the administration side. I never was a developer. And then, fast forward a little bit.
It was a phase.
Right, it was a phase. I think everybody has that phase, right? And then you kind of try to get rid of it like a bad habit. And then, after that job, so once I started hiring on more people when I was at that firm, I started realizing that my range of focus was pretty small. And at that point, I started getting, interest by way of LinkedIn, and I landed a job at a managed services provider doing a massive Office 365 migration, because Exchange was kind of one of my big time background technologies, right? And once I was there, and I realized that soon everybody's, email will live in Office 365. What am I going to continue to do? A Microsoft partner reached out to me. So I worked for 10th Magnitude prior to Microsoft, and that was 2016. So from 2016 until now, it's been all Azure all the time. And I feel like there is no ceiling. There's an opportunity for growth. And I think we've joked about this, right? Like I'm doing more dev-based work than I've ever done prior to now. And it's awesome because I've got a lot of great dev folks at Microsoft who can help me figure out how to make sense of some of these weirder concepts that I somehow missed in terms of my kind of my motley crew transition path into where I am now.
Super interesting. Like that's I love you so much more now that I know like all your DJ style music. Like that's what I listened all day long. That's awesome.
Nice. I should send you some of my, as I've got some videos up on YouTube, and then I've got some things on, I think it's called Mixcloud. So it's always hard to figure out where to store your stuff, and Mixcloud seems to be the spot that a lot of DJs are doing it. So some of the mixes are older, but I should definitely send you the link.
Yeah.
A couple of links, probably.
Explore them. That's cool. Well, I like the those kind of music because I can work. They give like there's a beats, so it's kind of like you're moving
it keeps
somewhere.
You awake.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's not too much lyric, so it helps me to focus. Otherwise, if there's too much lyric, then like instead of reading, I read what I just hear and it doesn't match.
Yeah.
So
or you sing along and you're like, oh gosh, what was I doing?
like if to sing depends. If it's in English, probably not. But yeah. That was interesting. And like we had a bunch of also very interesting starting in the chat. Shadow Buffy was saying start as a booting games. What's a booting games? I don't know what. Do you know what the booting games does?
I think you started by
You're starting games, building the beginning of a games. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, it's interesting. So all of a sudden, I got an interesting ad show up in one of my social media platforms. I don't know if it was. I feel like it wasn't LinkedIn because it was almost too cool for LinkedIn. But there's now these shops that are building out training materials so you can build, I guess, kind of build up your programming chops so you could build games. And I was like, this is pretty awesome. I should explore this. So I bookmarked it. I haven't had time to go back to it because you know how things. We only have 24 hours in a day. I wish we had another couple of hours. I feel like I could either get more stuff done or be more lazy. I'm not sure.
Well, one of the first thing I did to expose exposing like it was not LinkedIn. It was a website I had, but I created my. It was a long time ago. I was about to say the date, but I won't say the date. But it was early.
Last week.
No. The here was not starting by a 2.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So
I was messing around with XML, so I did my resume in XML, and then with XSLT, you could sort to see only the jobs or like not the jobs a lot because I didn't have a lot of job in computer stuff, but you could sort and see only the things that interest you.
Right.
With the XSLT, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I always appreciate the atypical path to IT. In fact, I've worked with some engineers at Microsoft who, that's their entire degree, and they always find it fascinating. They somehow found that I love to troubleshoot. I found technology fascinating, and I made a career out of it without, any schooling. Right now, I've gotten certs after the fact, right? So I also feel like going down those paths sort of are similar in the sense, it's not the same, but it's similar to kind of a collegiate education, right? Because the technologies are changing, so it's a little bit faster to see, kind of how that matures and how to take your skills through the most like kind of current or the latest and greatest related to Azure.
Okay. So it was building booting schemes. So it was bots.
Oh, very cool.
That's cool though. Like for like starting.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that not many people would have started with.
Yeah, I was doing animation. My really first job was building little website in Flash animation. Anyway, okay.
Cool. Flash animation. Remember those days?
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned, I had another question, but since you mentioned that you don't have like scholarship or whatever, so how do you learn? Where do you keep up with the new tech? Where, like, if you want to learn a new tech, how do you do that?
Sure. So I find something, right? And so we have subscriptions at Microsoft. So I'll find something either on Pluralsight or O'Reilly if it's interesting, right? If somebody passes it along to me, I'll take it down, I'll look at it, I'll figure out if it makes sense to go through. Like, so when I was trying to wrap my head around development and data structures and things of that sort, I didn't have that formal education. So there's some great training on Pluralsight that kind of helps you fill in those gaps. From there, MS Learn is a fantastic resource, and there's so many more modules than there ever has been before. So I love the fact that I can go there, on top of the fact that I'll follow like MVP bloggers because they'll do some interesting stuff with stitching Azure together, maybe explaining it so that, your non-devs can feel like devs, right? So that's another way I kind of stay up to date. And then, just having the network at Microsoft helps too, because, my very first real complicated PowerShell script I wrote was multiple for each loops, right? So prior to I had done for each loops, it's not like I was a stranger to that reality, but it was a for each loop with kind of a single threaded task, right? Changing a mailbox name, right? Or a user principal name, right? Doing something very single threaded. And so when I started playing around with PowerShell and doing more, I'd write like multiple for each loops when I could write one for each loop and have like 5 things show up there. So it's been nice to have these awesome devs that are never like, oh, that's a dumb question, I could never answer that for you. No, they love the fact that I'm eager to learn, and that, I think also it keeps them on their toes, because if you can explain it to somebody who didn't have that as a background, I feel like you're much more valid in the kind of the working world, right? Because you help your customers out, you help a broader community out. So I think those are some of the ways that I've done, I guess, the upskilling over the course of time. So it's, leaning on my network at Microsoft, even the broader community, that helps too. Plus finding, classes on or courses on Pluralsight, and then MS Learn.
Cool. And more to come about MS Learn, since we'll
Yes.
be talking about that later. That's cool. Okay, one more question, looking
Sure.
into my question hat. So what would be the more exciting project that you were involved into? It could be a personal little thing, like, I did some I forgot security, whatever. I with the motion, I think the name for that, for all my house. Or it could be a work project that, of course, that you can share.
Sure. Yeah. So I was just talking about this with my boss. So we'll give a shout out to Jeremiah. Hi, Jeremiah.
Hello.
No, so when I was, so prior to being a cloud advocate, I was a cloud solution architect, and I worked with a lot of different customers, helping them out. And one of the coolest projects I had a chance to work on was we transitioned a big customer away from a vendor. I won't name it, but it's a patching vendor, patching, like, so, OS patching, application patching, updating applications, move them away from their product into Azure Automation using update management, and then Azure Automation runbooks. So we helped them transition a very expensive vendor over to Azure 100%. And I think they went from spending like $150,000 a year to like less, or a little over $2,000 a year. So we leaned on Azure Update Management. I built a lot of custom PowerShell. That was where I figured out that I shouldn't, do 5 for each loops, just do 1 for each loop with 5 things.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And it was a super cool thing. So I was telling Jeremiah, I'm like, I've been looking for this awesome opportunity to kind of publicize what we did, because we did a meetup here in Chicago. So a lot of customers in the Chicagoland area, which is where I live, they loved it. I feel like now it's time to kind of talk about it a little bit broader, because, at the end, they had a bunch of custom PowerShell to be able to group servers. They had custom PowerShell to help them schedule the actual updates. They had an Azure Automation runbook to roll back patches in the event that it, screwed up a server. And then they had an Azure Automation runbook for all their Windows servers to patch third-party apps and update the apps. So it was a cool reality, but man, I felt like I had just, very much so, achievement unlocked. Right? Because I think prior to that, I hadn't spent that much time. I know. I'd done PowerShell prior to. I was an Exchange administrator managing, thousands and thousands and thousands of mailboxes. I've gotten better with PowerShell, but that was really taking it to kind of that next level. And part of the custom PowerShell, I didn't even know this, is you can call upon C#, I think, classes.
Yeah.
I hope.
Well, I used PowerShell for years before realizing that too.
Same. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm doing? I wish there was like a better way of understanding what I'm doing. But whatever. I had an aha moment. I feel like it's time to probably give that story back to a very broad community base, and hopefully somebody finds it interesting.
Thank you for sharing all that
Sure.
information. I have one more question. I know I said it was the last one, but a nice question from Shadow Buffy asking, what blogs do you follow? Do you have some names, links that you could share? Maybe in our chat, so we'll reshare them. If they come, maybe you don't, and you will reshare that after the fact. I can put that in the show note also.
Yeah, I do. So Richard Hooper out of the UK has a pretty great blog that he'll update. He's been focusing a lot on AKS as of late. Sarah Lean, she's another good blogger. She's got her own personal blog, and then she'll blog within the tech community blogs as well. Thomas Marr, he's another one that focuses a lot on, say, Azure Arc.
Yeah, these days he's in
Azure
fire
Stack.
with Azure Arc.
Yeah, I feel like he's a bot because he writes so many good blog posts, and I'm like, do you ever sleep, right? So I follow him, and then another guy I follow pretty regularly is Sam Kogan. I followed Jessica Dean over the course of time because I've had to make some things happen in a CI/CD pipeline, and her background's very heavy in infrastructure, and so she's had to make sense of this software-defined world, and I love the way that she's broken it down multiple times. So those are probably the ones I follow, but I mean, I keep finding more, and I'm not as familiar with what I've found recently. So those are, hopefully that's helpful. We can include all of those blogs in terms of the show notes, I guess is where you'd probably tack that, right?
I'll put that in the show notes, Shadow, Bluffy. Bluffy one, sorry. I'm bad, I need to put my chat like huge, because all those little, it's red on black and...
You need like a monocle, like make it super. Oh. I've done the same thing. Like I used to make fun of my parents who would always have their font ridiculously big on their phones, and I've been starting to make my font bigger on my phone, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is karma.
Yeah. No, it's just that, like I have so much stuff that I need to look. And of course, I want to look at the camera and look at you to make sure like you're all fine and everything. So I cannot read and spend like a lot of time reading. So I just have that on the corner of my eyes. Maybe I should put it on my other side because that's the good eyes. No, it's the good one is here. So no, that's on the good side. I know it. Talk for another stream.
Yeah, there you go. I feel like also at some point, all of us in the advocacy teams, we should talk about our setups, because I feel like we're all doing some unique stuff at home, especially now that nobody's traveling. And I feel like that might be helpful for folks who are finding themselves on more video conferences or wanting to do podcasts, because it's not that people at Microsoft can only do podcasts, right? Or streams, right? So I always feel like we should somehow give back on that realm too. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think also a lot of people are starting and sometimes struggling. That's why I asked that question. I know I was struggling to how do I get started, or like where should I start and what should I do, and I just, like you mentioned earlier, I did not really know what I wanted to do. I know what I didn't want to do. Like that was clear. And I like people around me were like adult. They were like, yeah, that's good. At least you know what you don't want to do. So, fill the gap. So we're like, the gap is huge.
Right.
So, but yeah, so I think sharing that could help, and like showing that you are human.
Oh yeah, and I think experimentation's key, right? If you're excited to go learn about something in machine learning, there's all these different ways of getting yourself kind of skilled up in that realm. Or if you want to go dig into Kubernetes, or you want to go dig into app services, or you want to get better at Go, right? There's even great stuff on Go and Node.js, right? There's Learn modules on that front now too. So there's some really good stuff out there. It's almost like the sky is the limit. Oh well, no, not the limit. No, yeah, the sky's the limit. I think that's the right way of saying it. There's no ceiling.
Sky is not the limit, it's the playground.
There you go. I like that. That's actually a better one. I think that's what we should be adopting, because if you think about it, we're already in the cloud, and the cloud is seemingly endless. So you go. That's the playground.
That's kind of, I've keep repeating to my daughter, school is there to teach you how to learn and do brain push-up.
Right.
Like maths, it's purely brain push-up. Like maths by itself, there's very little chance that it will very be useful in your work directly, I mean. But indirectly, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So that brains push up and learning how to learn. Yeah. That's what you do, and that's what bring us prepare for your demo right now. Now that you know more about Shannon, I invite you to watch this video where she show us how she used PowerShell to create storage account, or this one where we pass through a Learn module that help you picking the good storage for your project. I'm Frank Boucher. See you next time.